In this video, I'm going to show some selected questions from Lesson 18 in the Oklahoma Supplement, and this lesson is on creating double bar graphs. And I'm going to begin on page 105 in your math journal, looking at questions 2 and 3. For both of these questions, we're going to display a set of data in a double bar graph. On question number 2, we're looking at student population, and we are going to compare the student population in grades 2nd through 5th, but within each grade we're going to compare two segments of the population, boys versus girls. When you're making a double bar graph, the first thing you need to do is decide what information is going on each axis, so what's going to go on along the x-axis and what's going to go along the y-axis. Because I want my bars in this graph to be vertical bars up and down like this, I'm going to make the grades be along the x-axis, so this will be 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade. These will be grades. And along the y-axis, I will have the number of students, or the student population in each grade. So I'm just going to label this as students. And I have to then decide what am I going to count by. Now I want to start at 0, but I'm definitely going to have a break in this graph because my smallest number is 28 and I need to go to 45. So if I start right here at 28, if I make this first line be 28, then I have to decide what am I going to count by in order to get to at least 45 without going that much over 45. So if I count by tens, 38, 48, 58, 68, I'm going way past 45. So maybe fives, this would be 33, 38, 43, 48. That looks pretty good. So I think I'm going to count by fives. And it's not necessarily wrong if you choose something else to count by. You just want to count by something that's not going to be way above whatever your maximum is. We don't want the graph all squeezed down here at the bottom. So once we've set up the scale of our graph, now we need to put our title, which is going to be student population. And we'll need to create a key whenever we decide what colors we're going to use for our graph. Now I'm going to go ahead and start graphing my my data, and I'm going to start with the boys. And the boys I'm going to make be purple here. So the boys in 2nd grade were 40. So I'm going to make a little bar. This is actually bluish color. A little bar here that's going to be for the boys. For 2nd grade, now notice that I didn't go all the way up to 43. I'm going to have to approximate. I'm trying to go to 40, so it's somewhere between 38 and 43. For 3rd grade, they were 45. So again, I'm going to have to approximate. For 4th grade, they were 34. And for 5th grade, they were 30. Because all of these are not exactly on any of my points on my graph, I just have to approximate them. And then I'm going to go ahead and graph the girls, which I'm going to make be this green color. So the boys are now done. The girls will be right next to the boy graph. So the girls will be 32 for 2nd grade. So that's going to go to right about here. Notice that these bars are actually touching each other even. And that's the way they should be for a double bar graph. For 3rd grade, we're going to be at 40. So maybe right about there. For 4th grade, 28. So that's right on this line. And then for 5th grade, 39. Maybe right about there. And the last thing that I need to do is I need to make my key. It's going to be kind of hard to see this, but green will be the girls and blue will be the boys. So now I have made my double bar graph comparing the student population in 2nd through 5th grade and comparing two segments within that population, boys versus girls. Let's now look at question number 3, and on this question we're looking at participation in sports. So we're comparing the participation of boys versus girls in various sports. If we look at how this graph is set up, you'll notice that it looks like it's sideways compared to this one up here, whereas this one has lines already horizontally, this has lines vertically. This tells us that our double bar graph is going to be shifted. Instead of having bars that go up and down, it's going to have bars that go left and right. So as a result, instead of having the sports along the bottom, the x-axis, I'm going to put the sports along the y-axis. So this will be volleyball, basketball, track, and then bowling. And these will be my number of students along here. These are sports. I don't have room to write sports right here, but they are sports. And what I have to do is decide what is my interval going to be. I know I need to go from 8 to 35, so I'm not going to put a break in the graph because 8 is fairly close to 0. And I also know that 35 is a multiple of 7, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, so it looks like I can just count by 7s here, and then I'll get to 35. So my title was participation in sports. I'm just going to call it participation-sports. And now I'm ready to make my graph. Remember that these lines are going to be horizontal on this graph. So my first one, volleyball, is for the boys is 15. So I'm going to go up to right about there, 15. Basketball is 35. That goes all the way to the end. Track is 19. Maybe right about there. And then bowling is 12. So somewhere right in there. The girls, volleyball was 24. So it looks like it's somewhere maybe right in there. Basketball is 32. So maybe right about there. Track was 23. And then bowling was 8. So this one will be the girls, and this one will be the boys. Can't really read that, but you get the idea that when we're creating our double bar graphs here, we're looking at ways that we can compare segments within a population of data. And in this case, the segments that we're comparing are boys versus girls within the population of what sports that those students participated in. And lastly, let's look at question 4. It says, if the graph in exercise 3 showed only the number of students who participated in each sport, what information would be lost? So instead of having boys and girls split up here, all we would have would be a total amount. Now we know the total amount. We can add up 15 plus 24 and get a total. We can add up 35 and 32 and get a total. But what would be lost would be the breakdown in how many of those total people who participated in each sport were boys or girls. So what you could not do is you couldn't determine which sport was most popular among boys, which was most popular among girls, and the least popular among them as well.